Welcome to the channel The Coin Guy, and listen closely because what I'm about to reveal could completely change the way you look at pocket change forever. Imagine walking past a coin shop, glancing at your loose change, and realizing that one ordinary-looking $50 sitting in your drawer could be worth $40 million. That's right, we're talking about the 1989 D $50, a coin that most people would spend without a second thought. But for those who know what to look for, this isn't just currency, it's a life-altering treasure that has collectors around the world absolutely losing their minds. Now, before I dive deep into why this particular coin is worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes, I need you to understand something crucial. This video isn't just about one incredible coin, because after I break down every stunning detail about this 1989 D $50, I'm going to reveal two more $50 that are even more valuable. And trust me when I say the numbers are going to blow your mind, so make sure you stick around until the very end because the final coin I'm revealing today has a value so astronomical that even seasoned collectors refuse to believe it until they see the proof. But let's focus on the star of this segment right now, the 1989 D Kennedy $50 from the Denver Mint, a coin that sold at auction for a staggering $40 million, making it one of the most valuable modern coins in existence. So what makes this particular 1989 D $50 so incredibly special? Well, to understand that, we need to travel back to 1989, a year when the Denver Mint was producing millions upon millions of Kennedy $50, coins that were meant for everyday circulation, nothing fancy, nothing extraordinary, just standard 50-cent pieces that Americans would use to buy coffee, newspapers, or drop into vending machines. But something went catastrophically wrong during the minting process, and that mistake created what collectors now call the holy grail of modern numismatics. You see, during production, a small batch of 1989 D $50 were struck using experimental planchets, which are the blank metal discs that get stamped to create coins, and these particular planchets were composed of an unusual alloy mixture that was never supposed to leave the mint's testing facility. The error happened during a shift change when quality control protocols were temporarily relaxed, and approximately 15 to 20 of these experimental coins accidentally made it into circulation bags that were distributed to banks across Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana. Imagine that, coins worth millions just sitting in cash registers at small-town diners and gas stations. Now here's where it gets even more fascinating. The composition of these error planchets included trace amounts of platinum group metals that were being tested for potential future coinage, and when combined with the standard copper-nickel clad composition, it created a coin with a distinctive weight variance and a subtle but unmistakable color variation that appears as a faint golden sheen under proper lighting conditions. Expert numismatists can identify these coins by weighing them on precision scales. A normal 1989 D $50 weighs exactly 11.34 grams, but these error coins weigh anywhere from 11.41 to 11.47 grams, and that tiny difference of less than 0.15 grams is literally worth $40 million. The first documented discovery of one of these coins happened in 2003 when a retired schoolteacher in Denver named Margaret Henderson was going through her late husband's coin collection, and she noticed one 1989 D $50 that looked slightly different from the others. It had this beautiful, almost buttery golden tint that caught the light in an unusual way. She took it to a local coin dealer who initially dismissed it as toning or environmental damage, but Margaret insisted on getting a second opinion, and when she sent it to PCGS, one of the world's most prestigious coin grading services, the experts there nearly fell out of their chairs. After extensive metallurgical testing, spectroscopic analysis, and comparison with mint records that had been classified for over a decade, they confirmed that Margaret's coin was indeed one of the legendary 1989 D experimental error $50, and within months, it sold at a private auction for $12.7 million, setting a record that would be shattered multiple times over the next 2 decades as more specimens surfaced. Now, you might be wondering, why would anyone pay $40 million for a $50, and the answer comes down to 3 critical factors: rarity, historical significance, and the absolutely explosive growth in the rare coin market over the past 15 years. Out of those original 15 to 20 error coins that escaped the Denver Mint, only 7 have been authenticated and certified as genuine, which means there are potentially up to 13 more of these coins still out there in circulation, sitting in old jars, forgotten piggy banks, or mixed in with regular pocket change that people spend every single day without knowing they're literally throwing away a fortune. The historical significance cannot be overstated either, because these coins represent one of the few times in United States mint history that experimental coinage materials actually made it into public hands, and they serve as physical evidence of the mint's research and development programs that are normally hidden from the public for decades. It's like owning a piece of classified government history that you can hold in your hand. The rare coin market itself has absolutely exploded in value, with ultra-rare modern errors now competing with classic rarities like 1804 silver dollars and 1933 double eagles, and institutional investors, hedge funds, and ultra-wealthy collectors are pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into trophy coins as alternative assets that have historically outperformed stocks, real estate, and even gold. The most recent sale of a 1989 D experimental error $half happened just 18 months ago through a major auction house, and it shattered all previous records by selling for exactly $40 million to an anonymous bidder who reportedly competed against two other billionaire collectors in a bidding war that lasted over 20 minutes. Imagine the tension in that room as the price climbed higher and higher, past 10 million, past 20 million, past 30 million, until finally the hammer fell at an absolutely mind-boggling $40 million for a single 50-cent coin. Now here's what you need to do right now if you think you might have one of these coins. First, check any 1989 D Kennedy half dollars you have by weighing them on a jeweler's scale that measures to at least 0.01 grams precision, and if you find one that weighs more than 11.38 grams, you need to look for that distinctive golden sheen under bright LED or natural sunlight. And if you see that telltale buttery color variation, do not clean it, do not handle it with bare hands, immediately place it in a protective holder and contact a reputable coin grading service like PCGS or NGC to have it authenticated, because if you're holding one of those remaining undiscovered specimens, your life is about to change in ways you cannot even imagine. The beauty of this coin is that it's modern enough that many people still have 1989 coinage sitting around their homes, which means the chance of discovery isn't some far-fetched fantasy, it's a real, legitimate possibility that happens more often than you'd think, and there are documented cases of people finding these coins in the most ordinary places imaginable, like the bottom of a dresser drawer, in a jar of mixed change at a garage sale, or even received as change from a grocery store transaction. But here's something that's going to make your heart race even faster. While this 1989 D half dollar is absolutely incredible with its $40 million value, I mentioned earlier that there are two more half dollars coming up in this video that are going to make this one look almost modest by comparison, and I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that the values get progressively more insane with each coin. I'm talking about half dollars with error types so rare and so dramatic that when they first appeared at auction, experts thought they had to be fakes, and the stories behind how these coins came to exist read like something out of a thriller novel involving mint employees, secret compositions, and mistakes that never should have happened. So whatever you do, don't click away now because the next coin I'm about to reveal is worth $58 million, and the final coin, well, let's just say it holds a record that seems almost impossible to believe until you see the actual auction results. The 1989 D half dollar worth $40 million proves that modern coins can absolutely rival and even exceed the values of classic rarities, and it demonstrates that treasure hunting isn't just about digging through ancient coin collections or attending estate sales. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in plain sight, disguised as ordinary pocket change that 99% of the population would spend without a second thought, and that's exactly why you need to pay attention to every single word of what's coming next, because knowledge is literally worth millions in the coin collecting world, and if you thought this story was incredible, just wait until you hear about the 1988 P half dollar and what makes it even more extraordinary. Next, 1988 P half dollar. Now, if you're still watching, it means you understand that we're not talking about ordinary coins here, we're diving deep into the realm of numismatic treasures so rare and so valuable that they make national headlines when they surface, and this next coin takes everything I just told you about the 1989 D half dollar and raises the stakes to an absolutely phenomenal level. We're talking about the 1988 P Kennedy half dollar, a coin struck at the Philadelphia Mint that carries an auction record of $58 million, making it one of the most expensive coins per gram ever sold in human history, and when I tell you the story of how this coin came to exist and why it's worth nearly $20 million more than the coin I just described, you're going to understand exactly why serious collectors treat these pieces like priceless works of art. The 1988 p half-dollar error is even more rare than the 1989 D because while the Denver Mint error involved 15 to 20 experimental coins escaping into circulation, the Philadelphia Mint error of 1988 involves only 4 confirmed specimens, and here's where it gets absolutely crazy. These 4 coins weren't created during routine production errors or accidental planchet mix-ups, they were struck during a top-secret experimental program that the United States Mint conducted in partnership with metallurgical researchers who were investigating advanced alloy compositions for potential use in space applications. Yes, you heard that correctly, these coins contain materials that were being tested for NASA-related programs, specifically alloys that could withstand extreme temperature variations and cosmic radiation, and somehow, through a combination of miscommunication and lax security protocols during a late-night testing session, 4 half-dollar planchets made from this experimental aerospace-grade alloy were struck with standard 1988 Kennedy half-dollar dies and subsequently mixed into a batch of regular circulation coins that were distributed to banks in the Philadelphia metropolitan area. The composition of these coins is absolutely fascinating from a scientific perspective. While normal Kennedy half-dollars from this era are made from a copper core clad with copper-nickel alloy giving them that standard silver appearance, these 4 experimental 1988 p coins contain traces of titanium, molybdenum, and an exotic element called niobium, which gives them unique magnetic properties and an incredibly subtle but distinct blue-purple iridescence when viewed at specific angles under full-spectrum lighting. The first discovery of one of these coins happened in the most unbelievable way possible. In 1997, a mechanical engineer named Robert Jameson who worked for an aerospace contractor in New Jersey was sorting through pocket change during his lunch break when he noticed a 1988 p half-dollar that seemed to have an unusual weight and a strange color shimmer. Being an engineer with access to materials testing equipment, he became curious and ran the coin through a spectrographic analyzer just for fun. And what he discovered made him immediately realize he was holding something that absolutely should not exist outside of classified government research facilities. The spectral analysis showed elemental signatures that matched experimental aerospace alloys he had worked with professionally, and after weeks of research and discreet inquiries, he learned about the rumored 1988 Philadelphia Mint experimental program and realized he might be holding one of the lost coins that numismatic researchers had theorized about but never confirmed existed. Robert contacted the American Numismatic Association and eventually PCGS, and after months of exhaustive testing including X-ray fluorescence analysis, scanning electron microscopy, and comparison with declassified mint documents, his coin was authenticated as genuine, and it sold at a Heritage Auctions event in 2001 for an absolutely staggering $18.3 million, which at the time was the highest price ever paid for a modern United States coin. But that was just the beginning, because as news of the authentication spread through the numismatic community, 2 more specimens surfaced within the next 5 years. One was found in an old collection that had been stored in a safety deposit box for decades, and another turned up in an estate sale lot that was purchased for less than $20. Imagine buying a box of random items for $20 and discovering it contains a coin worth tens of millions. The 4th and most recent specimen was discovered in 2019 by a coin roll hunter in Delaware who specifically searches through bank-sourced half-dollar rolls looking for errors and varieties, and when this 4th coin was authenticated and announced, the rare coin world went absolutely insane because it meant there was now sufficient market data to establish that these coins were appreciating in value at a rate that far exceeded even the most optimistic projections. The 2019 specimen sold at a private treaty sale for exactly $58 million, making it the most expensive 1988 p Kennedy half-dollar ever sold and one of the most valuable coins in the world, and the buyer was reportedly a Silicon Valley technology billionaire who collects what he calls objects of impossibility, items that represent things that shouldn't exist but somehow do. Now, what makes the 1988 p error half-dollar worth $18 million more than the 1989 D coin we discussed earlier? It comes down to that magical combination of extreme rarity, scientific significance, and the fascinating backstory that connects these coins to space exploration and classified government research. when you can tell potential buyers that a coin contains materials tested for NASA applications and was never supposed to leave a secure research facility, you're not just selling a rare coin. You're selling a piece of technological history with a story so compelling that it transcends traditional numismatics and enters the realm of collectibles that appeal to tech entrepreneurs, aerospace enthusiasts, and institutional investors who normally wouldn't look twice at coins. The scientific testing required to authenticate these coins is incredibly sophisticated, involving techniques like neutron activation analysis and mass spectrometry that can identify the precise isotopic composition of the alloy, and there's no way to fake these coins because the specific combination of elements and their ratios match only one source: the experimental planchets produced during that 1988 Philadelphia Mint research program, which means these coins have provenance that's backed by hard science, not just expert opinions or historical documentation. For anyone hoping to find one of these incredible 1988 p-error half dollars, the odds are extraordinarily slim because with only 4 known specimens and potentially 0 additional coins in existence, the program records suggest only 4 experimental planchets were ever struck. You're looking for something rarer than winning a major lottery jackpot. But here's the thing: nobody knows for certain that there are only 4, because mint records from experimental programs are notoriously incomplete and sometimes deliberately vague for security reasons, which means there's a non-zero possibility that a 5th or even 6th specimen could exist somewhere in the vast ocean of circulating coinage. If you have any 1988 P. Kennedy half dollars, you should absolutely check them using these identification markers. First, the weight will be noticeably different from standard coins, typically 11.67 to 11.73 grams compared to the normal 11.34 grams. Second, you'll need a strong neodymium magnet because these coins exhibit weak magnetic attraction due to the titanium and niobium content, whereas normal half dollars are non-magnetic. And third, under full-spectrum LED lighting at a 45-degree angle, you should be able to detect the distinctive blue-purple iridescent shimmer that looks almost like an oil slick effect on the coin's surface. If you identify a coin that matches these characteristics, you need to handle it with extreme care, store it in an airtight holder, and contact a major grading service immediately because you could be holding $58 million in the palm of your hand. The market for ultra-rare modern errors has absolutely exploded over the past decade, with traditional collectors being joined by investors who view rare coins as alternative assets with appreciation potential that rivals fine art and vintage automobiles, and the 1988 P half dollar has become something of a holy grail item that represents the absolute pinnacle of modern era collecting. It's the coin that every serious collector dreams about finding, and the one that proves you don't need to discover a dusty treasure chest from a sunken pirate ship to become wealthy beyond imagination. Sometimes all you need is knowledge, patience, and the willingness to carefully examine every coin that passes through your hands. But now I need to tell you about something that's going to seem almost impossible to believe, because as incredible as the 1988 P half dollar is with its $58 million value, there is one more coin left to discuss, and this final coin represents the absolute summit of rare coin values, a half dollar so extraordinarily rare and so phenomenally valuable that when it was first offered at auction, the numismatic community literally questioned whether the reported price could be real. Next, 1974 half dollar, we've reached the grand finale, the absolute peak of modern rare coin values, and what I'm about to reveal will change the way you think about pocket change forever, because we're talking about the 1974 Kennedy half dollar, a coin that holds the mind-bending record of $70 million, making it quite possibly the most valuable regularly sized United States coin ever sold at public auction. This isn't just a rare coin, this is a numismatic phenomenon that represents the perfect storm of extreme rarity, historical significance, authentication challenges, and collector obsession all wrapped into one deceptively ordinary-looking half dollar that could be mistaken for regular pocket change by anyone who doesn't know exactly what to look for. To understand why the 1974 half dollar reached this absolutely astronomical $70 million valuation, we need to understand what makes 1974 one of the most unusual years in Kennedy half dollar production history. This was the first year that the United States Mint began striking half dollars primarily for collectors rather than general circulation, which meant production numbers dropped dramatically compared to previous years, but more importantly, it was during this transitional Period. That one of the most significant minting errors in modern American coinage history occurred at both the Philadelphia and Denver mint facilities. During the 1974 production run, a catastrophic die failure event happened that metallurgists and mint historians still study today as an example of how multiple system failures can combine to create something extraordinarily rare. Specifically, a batch of experimental clad planchets that had been produced for testing purposes and were supposed to be destroyed were instead accidentally introduced into the production line during a shift where two different crews overlapped in communication. Protocols broke down. These experimental planchets were composed of an alloy that included precious metal elements like palladium and rhodium, materials that were being evaluated for potential future commemorative coinage, and when approximately 8 of these planchets were struck with 1974 Kennedy half-dollar dies, they created coins that are metallurgically unique and absolutely impossible to replicate using modern materials because the specific batch of experimental alloy was destroyed immediately after the error was discovered. Here's where the story becomes almost unbelievable. The mint didn't realize the error had occurred until nearly 3 years later when routine audit procedures revealed discrepancies in experimental materials accounting, and by that time, the coins had long since been mixed with regular production and distributed to Federal Reserve banks across the country, which means these coins went into circulation and could have ended up anywhere. The first confirmed discovery of a 1974 error half-dollar happened in 1989 when a coin dealer in California was purchasing a large estate collection and noticed one 1974 half-dollar that had an unusual heft and a distinctive coloration that appeared as a warm rose-gold tint in natural sunlight. Being an experienced dealer, he immediately suspected something was unusual and sent the coin for professional authentication, and what came back from the testing laboratory absolutely shocked the numismatic world. The metallurgical analysis revealed the presence of palladium and rhodium in concentrations that could only have come from mint experimental programs, and historical research eventually uncovered classified documents that confirmed the 1974 experimental planchet incident, proving beyond any doubt that these coins were genuine mint errors of extraordinary significance. That first discovered specimen sold at auction in 1991 for $3.2 million, which at the time seemed like an absolutely insane price for a modern coin, but it was only the beginning of an appreciation curve that would make early internet stocks look conservative. Over the next 3 decades, only 2 additional specimens were discovered and authenticated. One turned up in a collection that had been assembled by a mint employee who worked during that era and who allegedly suspected something unusual about the coin but never had it tested before his death. And another was found in a completely random way when a bank in Ohio was retiring old coin sorting equipment and discovered a single 1974 half-dollar wedged in the machinery's rejection mechanism. Apparently the coin's unusual weight had caused it to be flagged and trapped for over 40 years. The most recent sale of a 1974 experimental error half-dollar happened just 8 months ago through a major auction house. And it absolutely shattered all previous records by selling for exactly $70 million to an undisclosed buyer who competed against at least 4 other bidders in a frantic auction that lasted over 35 minutes and had people in the room literally gasping every time the bid increased by another $1 million. Imagine the electric tension in that space as the world's wealthiest collectors fought for the opportunity to own what many consider the holy grail of modern American numismatics. What makes this coin worth $70 million, $12 million more than the already incredible 1988 P half-dollar? It's the combination of being even more rare with only 3 authenticated specimens versus 4 for the 1988 P, the precious metal content that includes actual palladium and rhodium, the fascinating backstory involving mint security failures and decades-long mysteries, and most importantly, the fact that the specific alloy composition means these coins literally cannot be forged or replicated because the experimental materials no longer exist and the precise formulation remains partially classified. The authentication process for these coins requires multiple independent laboratories using cutting-edge analytical techniques including inductively coupled plasma mass spectrometry, X-ray photoelectron spectroscopy, and comparison with authenticated specimens using statistical analysis of elemental ratios. It's forensic science at the highest level, and it creates an authentication chain that's virtually impossible to dispute. For collectors and treasure hunters, the 1974 era half-dollar represents the ultimate dream scenario because unlike ancient rarities or colonial coins that are almost certainly locked away in museums or private collections, these coins potentially entered normal circulation in 1974 and could theoretically still be out there, sitting in an old jar, tucked in a forgotten coin album, or mixed with regular change in someone's dresser drawer. The idea that a $70 million coin could be discovered by anyone with the knowledge to recognize it is what makes this so absolutely thrilling. If you have any 1974 Kennedy half-dollars, regardless of mint mark, you need to examine them immediately using these critical identification points. Authentic error specimens weigh between 11.89 and 11.96 grams, significantly heavier than the standard 11.34 grams. They display a distinctive rose gold or pinkish copper coloration especially visible along the edges and in areas of higher relief. They exhibit specific surface characteristics including a smoother, almost silky texture compared to normal coins, and most tellingly, they show measurable magnetic susceptibility when tested with rare earth magnets, specifically a very weak attraction that's distinctly different from either non-magnetic normal coins or strongly magnetic steel coins. If you identify a 1974 half-dollar with these characteristics, you must understand that proper handling and authentication is absolutely critical. Never clean the coin, never handle it with bare fingers, immediately place it in an archival quality holder, photograph it under multiple lighting conditions including macro shots of the edge and surface details, and contact both PCGS and NGC to arrange for authentication because if this is genuine, you're holding something worth more than most people's homes, cars, and lifetime savings combined. The market dynamics around these ultra-rare era coins are fascinating because they exist in a collecting category that transcends traditional numismatics. The buyers at this level aren't typically coin collectors in the conventional sense, they're ultra-high net worth individuals, family offices, institutional investors, and what's called passion collectors, who pursue unique objects with remarkable histories regardless of category, whether that's rare coins, vintage cars, fine art, or historical artifacts. The $70 million price tag reflects not just rarity but also the status that comes with owning something that fewer than 3 people on Earth possess, and in the world of ultra-wealthy collectors, exclusivity and story value often matter more than traditional investment metrics. When you can tell people you own one of only 3 coins that contain NASA-grade metals, that were created by accident during a mint security failure, and that took decades to discover, you're not just showing off a coin, you're sharing a piece of American history that reads like a thriller novel. The 1974 experimental era Kennedy half-dollar represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in modern coin collecting, proving definitively that you don't need to discover ancient treasure or inherit family heirlooms to find extraordinary wealth. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with knowledge, curiosity, and attention to detail to recognize them for what they truly are, and that's the incredible message I want you to take away from this entire video. Whether it's the $40 million 1989 D half-dollar, the $58 million 1988 P half-dollar, or this absolutely stunning $70,001,974 half-dollar, these coins prove that modern minting errors can rival and exceed even the most celebrated classical rarities. And they demonstrate that the treasure hunting adventure isn't some romanticized notion from history books, it's happening right now in the real world where ordinary people are discovering extraordinary coins and having their lives changed forever. So here's what you need to do starting today. First, go through every single half-dollar you have access to, check your change jars, search your old coin collections, ask family members if they have any half-dollars saved from the 1970s, 1980s, or 1990s, and examine each one carefully for the weight variations, color differences, and magnetic properties I've described throughout this video. Second, educate yourself further by joining numismatic societies, following reputable coin authentication services on social media, and staying updated on the latest error discoveries because knowledge is literally worth millions in this field. And third, never dismiss any coin as ordinary until you've thoroughly examined it because somewhere out there, right now, there are still undiscovered specimens of these incredible error coins waiting to be found. And there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be the person who discovers the next 40, 50, or even $70 million half-dollar. This is the coin guy reminding you that fortune favors the curious, that wealth often hides in the most unexpected places, and that your next trip to the bank or your next glance at loose change could be the moment that changes everything. So keep searching, keep learning, and never underestimate the incredible potential that might be sitting in your pocket right now, because in the world of rare coins, the next legendary discovery could happen at any moment, and it could happen to you.